Hello, my fellow astronauts. My name is William, and I am part owner of WM Crypto Investments. I am currently a Conflux ambassador, and this video will be episode 3 of Nicehash Rentals of my Conflux mining series. Unlike most of my other videos, usually tend to be a little bit scripted or written out pretty well. When you're doing Nicehash rentals, it gets kind of hard and unpredictable to get the outcome you would expect, but of course this is not, financial advice at all. I've noticed that overbuying from an exchange, if I use the same amount of money to put towards a Nicehash Hashrate rental, I usually come out at about 20 to 50% extra CFX over, just buying from whatever exchange is available to you, buying Conflux outright. So first we're going to go to mining pool stats stream for Conflux. Here you can see the 3 different soloable pools if you want to try to do, solo mining with the really high hash rates. For certain market conditions, I usually like to just still go for, the pay per share level of things. So it's kind of good to take a look at how these pools are performing. I'm going to be looking at Nano Pool and Woolly first off. So we can see that, Nano's pulling out about 243 gigahashes, while it says Woolly Pulley is pulling out about 240. The thing that we have to note here is the 240 is not just, the pay per share. We're also accounting for the solo pool. So if I really want to understand, if I decided to go to the share, I would have to subtract the solo gigahash from it to understand the speed difference, overall hash rate between Nano and Woolly. So we'll go to a Woolly really quickly, and you can see that a good 176 gigahashes is going towards the pay per share, and then we have about 63 gigahashes solo. So in my example, what I'll be doing is I'm still going to be going for pay per share. I'm not going to try solo, but the reason why I'm going to be choosing Nano in this case is because I know that on average, based on the gigahash here, realizing that this is coming from 2 sources when it's telling me the last 100 blocks, and this tends to fluctuate up and down, but I know that with this gigahash speed, I am probably going to get the most payment out of my shares. When I'm looking at Woolly, I'm like, well, we're kind of splitting it between 2 different payment types, and their gigahash kind of goes up and down depending on how many other Nicehash rentals are going on as well. So I think I'm gonna probably get the best bang for my buck here, trying to go for Nano over Woolly, but I've also at times chosen Woolly over Nano because some people may actually swap to getting paid per share more than the solo pool. So yeah, if you actually go into the websites, you can see that this is going to be ever changing, so you really have to pay attention to the market conditions and all that stuff. So yeah, there we go. So if you already have a Nicehash account, which I'm assuming you already have by now, you go ahead and move to the Octopus algorithm, and it shows you here kind of like their bidding page, as I would call it. You have 2 different types of orders. You've got the fixed orders, which are always priority filled. They may not always get the top speed limit that is being set, but they will always be filled. So you're always going to get, you're always going to have this order filled and it always takes priority over standards. So, if you want the best bang for your buck, for your order to go for X amount of time without any kind of fluctuations in price, you're going to go for the fixed order. I don't necessarily do fixed orders all that much. I like to be able to kind of play with my price bidding and try to get it a little bit lower. In this case, right now, this fixed order is actually paying a lot more than all the regular standard orders. Standard orders, you set the price, you set the limit, and the biggest difference between setting the price and the limit here is the fixed price will be more or less already put by Nicehash, so you don't have much control over what you put in for fixed. But as for standard, you can pretty much put any price, and you also have a higher limit. So fixed orders can only go so much speed in terms of terahashes, but the standard ones actually have no limit. You can see some of these orders here actually have an infinite limit, meaning that as long as miners are available, they're going to be allocating as much speed as possible, and this is based on the price being offered to these miners in here. So whenever you see something that's a standard order and it happens to be a higher price than a fixed order, like let's say this is like a 1.5 and it has infinite, that this person really doesn't care about burning that much money, but at the same rate they're trying to get as many CFX tokens or as many shares as they can within however much they ordered. There's different marketplaces, so you can, when you're choosing EU, it doesn't matter if you choose west or north, because you're just going to choose the EU server when you're choosing your pool, when you're creating it. And then you also have the USA, same thing, as long as you choose a USA based server for the miners to connect to, you'll be good to go. I've noticed that the EU West server usually has the most speed available, so whenever you do your infinite speeds here, you're able to actually grab as much terahashes as you can. So that's how I explain that. And then this is where you go to the Conflux mining pool for Nanopool, and it tells you exactly what the servers are, and then you have to be very specific about choosing the correct port for it. This is pretty much very important for Nanopool. So it doesn't really matter so much for Wooly Pulley. They're able to notice that the difficulty needs to be higher for a Nicehash rental, so there's no ports that you have to worry about here. The only difference between the ports is choosing between pay per share if you want to have your rental get paid per share that's submitting, which can be a pretty substantial amount, being you're getting tons of mega hash worth of shares being sent in at a time. So when you get paid per share, it's actually pretty substantial and it's more reliable. You can see that the port here is 94, and then for the solo it's actually 3095. So that's the difference between the two pools. For me, I'm gonna be choosing Nanopool, as I said earlier. The overall amount of money that we will be messing around with will actually be a total of $300, but I'm actually gonna go do 2 orders. So I'm gonna do one order for a fixed rate at $150 roughly, and then I'm gonna do a standard order at $150. So let's go ahead and do that. And I will show you how to add a pool actually. So as an example, we choose Europe because that's the server that I'm going to be putting the order on. Put it up here. You'll definitely want to choose the correct algorithm. That's very important. Choose the pool name, test pool 1. And then I'll need to choose, in this case, the Nicehash port. Put it in here. And then you go ahead and put your wallet in the username, and then you just put X. So when you hit the test pool, and I know I didn't put my wallet in here, it will actually tell you at the end, like, hey, this pool is verified, it's good to go. It's the best way to ensure that all the miners for your Conflux order is going to be pointed to the correct pool. So you'll need to go ahead and put your wallet in here and then hit the test and hit OK. And once it's verified, it's good to go, then you know that it's verified and good to go. The biggest thing additionally is sometimes when you're swapping between your tabs, going from your mining tab to your hash power, sometimes it automatically default to the script. You'll want to make sure that you're in the correct order by making sure you're on Octopus, because sometimes it will swap algorithms and you can actually put your order in the wrong algorithm. Like you'll put your CFX pool information into a script pool for like Bitcoin. So you need to make sure that that's correct. So for the fixed order, go do that. As you can see, it tells me, I can only do that one max. And then I'm gonna put about $150 worth of Bitcoin. It says it'll take about a day, so I don't want to wait a full day. So we're gonna actually choose something like this. Then I'm gonna need to grab my cell phone. One moment, please. So you have to have your two-factor selected. With the terms and conditions, you don't have any control over the price. So I'm going to go ahead and place it. There you go. It starts off as like a not active order, but it'll come online here in a minute. And then I'm going to do standard order. So I want to come in just above this guy. Actually, you know what? We're going to grab his price and go just smidgen more. And then there's actually a minimum here. We're going to do it for... Looks like we got a lot of infinities here. But I'm going to be paying... This guy saw... So because I chose 4.6, and this actually changes a lot, so it's like bidding in real life. So I should grab a lot of these guys as miners in here, so I'm fine with that. You can change the limit a little bit, but you can't do drastic changes on standard orders, and you can't do any changes on fixed orders. So you kind of have to know exactly what you're going to be, looking for in terms of speed. So as for reference, 0.04 terahashes a second will give me about 40,000 mega hashes. So I can actually go to here and we can say 40,000 mega hashes. If our thing goes for at least an hour, we know that we're going to make this amount. So you can actually go ahead and tell. So it's going to be about like an hour 30, so about like 1.5 times that. So it should be what? about like 180 or so for about an hour and a half at that speed. So you can get an idea of how much you should come out with. And we'll be doing a comparison between what would have happened if I had bought it at market rate and how I was able to overcome, being able to use this service over using a DEX. Make sure everything's right. Got my standard order here. Let's go into the correct thing. Go ahead and order it. There we go. I've got my 2 orders here. So we've got my fixed order. You can already tell that it is pulling, exactly where it's going to ramp up there. It'll take some time. And I'm waiting for my second order. It's not started yet, but it will ramp up. There we go. So this is what the order looks like. As it starts completing, the approximate time will change. It will change a lot less quickly for a fixed order, because once it hits that limit, you know that essentially that's how quickly it's going to start drilling down. You can refill, you can cancel it if you need to, but we have my standard order here. I'm not quite getting the speed I want, but we're considering, hey, it just started, so we're gonna leave that there for a second. To explain the normal market conditions, the average Bitcoin terahash a day usually ranges from about 1.4 standard order to about 1.8 on the high side. So actually we're getting in at a very, very low rate here. It's kind of unusual to be in the 1.1 area, so we're getting in at a good price here in terms of how much we're going to be spending per mega hash essentially. So this is kind of a very lucky example, but just know that essentially it's going to be at around 1.4 to 1.6 and sometimes a bit more. And another thing that I'll show you as kind of a side note is you can actually run a comparison between this and Dagger Hashimoto or ETH. So in terms of price per mega hash, you'll actually see that right now it says Octopus, but it's actually ETH, but you'll see that they're actually paying quite a premium, 1.5 to 1.7, over Octopus. So this is kind of how you're able to see, how well Ethereum's doing as compared to, Octopus. Sometimes you'll see Octopus actually pay out more per terahash, and you'll actually see Octopus actually grab some miners from the ETH algorithm and actually move them over into Octopus. So depending on how much everybody's putting in the orders is essentially where the miners are going to be allocated to. Obviously this wouldn't include ASICs into our comparison, but moving back to our orders here, you can already see that, like in our initial dialogue when we were making the first order, it said basically once we get up to the speed that we ordered, which we're not quite there yet, but we're ramping up, it only lasts about an hour. I wanted to make this tutorial happen as quickly as I can, and I don't expect to do and take up your full hour, so we're gonna go ahead and try to make this as quick as possible. How this bidding works is whenever you hit the green up sign, it'll actually go above the next highest bidder. So the problem is when you have a huge jump, I say huge because most only change at the very end here, in terms of numbers. You saw when I first put my order in, I only did 0.0001 over the next highest order, just so I can grab all the speed off of these guys, which I am slowly grabbing all the miners out here, because I'm essentially saying, hey, I'm gonna pay you more if you swap to my order, and that's already happening there. When you go ahead and you jump from like 0.11 to 0.13 and you use the outbid method, it'll actually could potentially put you in a price range where you'd have a very hard time moving back down from. So essentially, once you go up above a certain level, when you're doing the edit field here, it only lets you go so much price up and down through this mechanism, but you can always outbid somebody for larger amounts. But let's say he goes and cancels his order and puts it in at my original price, he's essentially going to pay less for roughly about the same amount of speed. So when I go and sometimes I'll get into bidding orders against whales who are have infinite amount of limited terahash and they're paying a lot, I'll actually go ahead and cancel my order so that I can go ahead and put it in at a lower rate once I see that one of the bigger orders has fallen off or has been successfully completed. So sometimes when you're doing these bidding orders, you need to know when sometimes you have to actually just take the loss and just hit cancel and just eat the rental amount, and when it's okay to actually bid more. So right now we're actually almost at our speed that we want, and I'm okay with that because I'm trying to align my fixed order with my standard order. You don't always have to do that, but I wanted to kind of be able to show what I was able to do with similar like orders. In here I would usually go ahead and I can go ahead and up the limit if I want to get some more speed and get paid more, or sometimes I can lower the price and then up the speed, so I'm paying less for more speed. So it's all about knowing what your goals are in terms of what you're trying to come out with. And as I showed you in the calculator here, as long as I get to the speed that I'm looking for, I can almost expect how much Conflux I'll get out of mining here. But I just for shits and giggles, I wanted to be able to show you how a fixed order would happen. You can see how we're just stuck here. There's no changing to pay more. There's no way to change the speed limit if I want to go faster. So it's stuck where it is, wherever it's suggested. Yeah, but just for demo purposes, I'm gonna outbid the guy above me. And even though I'm already kind of at my speed, I didn't really need to do that. If I had left it there for a little bit longer, I definitely would have hit my speed counter here. But I just, there we go. So I wanted to show you that they'll do people are watching these orders and they will just upbid you by one just so they can grab back some of the speed. It's especially the case when you have these infinite orders here. So when you have these infinite orders, they're willing to outbid you to get more speed, because they could perhaps be doing solo, and they'll actually be missing out on blocks if their speed gets too low. But for me, I'm not too worried about that because I'm mining per share. So as long as I have a good flow of shares coming in, a good amount of speed, as long as it lasts, as long as we're finding blocks as a group in the pool, I'm gonna get paid a ton of CFX over time. And when we're talking about overtime, I'm really only watching these orders for 5 to 6 hours at a time. You don't have to do that. You can get to a spot where you're like, hey, I don't think anybody's gonna outbid my order, and I can leave it there, and it may get filled in a good amount of time. But the more you babysit, your order, the more you'll get out of it, because you're essentially watching what other people are doing here. What other people can do is they can actually kind of set a low bid, like these guys here, and just let it ride out for a really long time. They can do that, that's fine. But for me, I do a lot of day trading, and I need to get my Conflux as quickly as I can because I don't know what I'll be doing with it when the market switches. So you can play the slow game, like some of these guys here. They're kind of lowballing at, you know, 0.5, which is unusual. I've never seen orders like this before. They're usually always above, you know, 1.1, but today is an unusual night. Like I said earlier in the video, usually ranges from, you know, 1.4 super low on average, all the way up to 1.7 or 1.8 when we're really pushing the envelope in terms of prices. So you'll actually see the amount that people are willing to pay, sometimes almost based on the price. If the price is increasing, people want to, you know, grab as much Conflux as they can, so they'll go ahead and, you know, do these crazy high orders over everybody else. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually raise the speed a little bit. And if I raise the speed, I'm essentially saying, hey, you know, put some more miners in my pool. You know, I can maybe grab a little bit more here. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with this order. It might be getting canceled here in a little bit, so I'm not going to overbid him. There's no reason to. He doesn't, according to this, he doesn't have any miners, but it looks like he still has some speed left over. I'm going to go ahead and refresh, see if that's the issue. Nope, I think this is just a dead order. He has a really low limit too, so I'm not worried about him. And like I said before, I'm trying to keep this at about an hour. Right now I'm trying to ramp up and request more speed. I potentially could go and do a little bit more. Let's do it. Go ahead and go above that guy, even though he doesn't have any miners according to the UI. But the higher you put this, the more you can actually grab from the bottom guys here. The other thing to note when you're playing a really tight race, like with this guy, for instance, okay, it's starting to update now for him. But when you're playing a really tight race with somebody like this, you can actually almost match them, especially if, let's say, all these orders had 0 in terms of miners. A lot of times you can actually, you're supposed to get a alert when your speed gets too low or when your order is not going to be fulfilled at a speedy time. So sometimes I'll actually play the game where I will go up just a little bit above the lowest order that has 0, and it'll actually cause the system to never tell them that their speed is getting too low, because I'm doing just enough to get my order filled and also leave a little bit for the guy below me, but not enough to where he's going to get it filled in a good amount of time. Essentially, I'm kind of undercutting him, but I'm also making sure that the alert doesn't go through saying, hey, you're not getting enough speed. There's a low speed alert. It'll actually tell them, and that's when they know to, you know, go ahead and outbid and stuff like that. So I think that I've explained as much as I could about the Hashpower rentals here. The next screen that you should be swapped to would actually be my earnings. It will show you, you know, how my fixed order did versus my standard order, and then we'll also compare, you know, with $150 for each one, you know, how much Conflux should I have gotten if I had bought it from an exchange, and then how much I ended up actually getting, you know, going through Nicehash. The upside to having it done through this way is, at whatever means that you're able to get your Bitcoin to pay for the Nicehash rental, you're you're not having to deal with any gas fees, because anything that's found by the miners that are fulfilling our orders in here goes straight to your Conflux wallet. So the only fee you'll be paying is the setup fee for each order, and that's about it, or whatever fee that you paid to move from however you bought your Bitcoin into this system is essentially the only cost that you have to deal with. You don't have to deal with, you know, shuttle flowing things in and out, Ethereum gas fees. You don't have to worry about any minimums or anything like that. Well, actually, there is a minimum for Hashpower orders. Is about $60 right now, but my rule of thumb is you'll never want to do less than $100 per order, because your margins for error will actually be almost too small for, you know, watching how your miners are doing and all that good stuff. So the more money you have to play with, and the more you're able to watch and bid with people, the better off you are, you know, being able to make that 20, 30, 50%, you know, extra CFX over, you know, buying from an exchange. So the more money you have, it's a lot easier to manage your orders, and you could potentially set really high speeds, which burns through your money more quickly, yes, but you know, you're going to be getting more shares, so you're going to get paid more. And then if you're running this through a solo pool, which you can, if you have your limit high enough, you'll actually grab multiple blocks back to back, potentially solo mining using this. And you already saw how I converted my terahashes, you know, into mega hashes, and you could, you know, convert it from tera to giga to understand, you know, how much of the potential network that you're adding to, you know, Nanopool or Woolly Pool, so you can understand, you know, how well you'll be doing here. So those are the things that I look at when I am doing this type of order. Like I said earlier, you know, the next screen should be showing you the profit I was able to make during this video. And as an added bonus, next week, near the beginning of May, I will be hosting a Conflux giveaway. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you're able to like and subscribe, and let's see what our profit ends up being.